Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit is here back again with My Hero Academia Season 4. We are on episode 17, and in the last episode, after the likes of the overhaul arc that took place across the first half of the season, we finally got to see what was going on with Bakugo and Todoroki, and now we're catching up with the provisional license exam sort of makeups that they are doing alongside Inasa, and now Kami as well, which I like the way that sort of came around sort of full circle and you know, like back to when they were actually doing the provisional license exam in the last half of season 3. Of course, the whole idea of, you know, Himiko Toga took over Kami's sort of body and everything like that. Well, she didn't take over the body. She got blood from Kami and was able to turn into her and used her body as a way to get into the provisional license exam under that guise of being Kami to get to Midoriya. And I like the fact that it came around like in a way they had to make up a story to, you know, to basically fit in with everything that was going on, not get out in the open like all of the public knowledge regarding Himiko Toga and everything, the League of Villains regarding that. And you know, I like the fact that they made up a story for that, you know, and something that fit in. So basically she has to come do her actual exam because she wasn't given a fair shot. So yeah, I like the way that sort of panned out. Also, the All Might and Endeavor part of last episode's great. I feel like we're on our way to sort of a sort of redemption arc for Endeavor, and however long that takes, I don't really know. I feel like it's probably best off that it's not a total change. Like, obviously, we know that since the All Might fight and everything like that, and since All Might is no longer the number one hero, we'll have to account for that amount of time where Endeavor's been, you know, sort of, you know, thinking about it in his own personal space. Like, if you remember back to, like, Season 3, like, just after the All Might and All For One fight, I think Todoroki went home and saw that Endeavor was in, like, you know, in their home smashing up the place because he was pissed off that he didn't become number one of, you know, the way that he wanted to. But he's had that time to think about all this, but I kind of wanted to, at least on screen, appear like this isn't something that can just be sort of, you know, overturned and then we're just like, right, that's great, awesome. I kind of wanted to sort of linger on a bit and sort of gradually his redemption arc as a father, because it's not, you know, it's not something that can be like fixed within like just one mere sitting down with All Might. I feel like he has to, you know, prove like his sort of his worth as a father to Todoroki. That, you know, an apology to Inasa would be nice, you know, and everything like that. So you know, I want that to kind of just like linger a bit and like sort of gradually get to that point, rather than just it being like a you know, a snap of fingers and then that's it. He's the good father again, you know. I kind of want him to almost struggle being a father in a way, like trying to be fatherly and everything like that, but because he hasn't had that loving, doting father sort of experience yet, so I want it to almost be like he's new to it in a way. I think that would be good to see, but we'll have to wait and see in regards to that. And also, obviously, the big thing was the provisional license exam and the whole kids thing that has cropped up. So, you know, I like the fact that it was sort of akin to the students when they were growing up. So, like I said, Bakugo, Todoroki, and Inasa. You know, it basically ties into all of their stories when they were kids. An event that would have occurred back then is what caused them to go on the path that they, you know, the reason why they became the way that they did. So obviously with Bakugo, it was being told that he's like the greatest, and you know, no one's ever going to be better than you, and being propped up so high that, you know, he had basically it forced him down a road where he was like this, like nobody could beat him. He was on the top of he was basically top of the food chain. Todoroki, it was obviously involving his father Endeavor, and then with Inasa, to obviously a lesser extent than the previous two, it was, you know, basically trying to get an autograph from Endeavor and everything like that. So, you know, it ties in. And the whatever the fuck his name is, the Shiketsu guy that is basically commentating right now. I love the quote that he mentioned about like the focus. You know, you can't overpower the kids, but also you can't let them run all over you either. So that is a tough sort of. Then you need to find like a tough middle ground there it's going to be tough. So I'm interested to see how they deal with this. And yeah, I don't think there's anything else to really talk about. So we're going to get into episode 18 and see what we get. Of course, if you do want to go watch the actual reaction highlights, the 10-minute version, then you can do with the link in the description below. That'll go over to Dailymotion as a part of my whole like switching everything over. Everything will be going on to Dailymotion now. And also, if you do want full length, then you can do by going over to my Patreon and becoming a full length tier patron, and you'll have access to the full length, uncut and unedited. Okay, so yeah, go and enjoy that if that is the case. But yeah, there's nothing else to really talk about. So let's get in episode 18 and see what we get. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, episode 17. Right, I actually really enjoyed that episode. I feel like they didn't have to carry on the whole kids thing, like the provisional license exam, at least that part of it, like any longer. And I was really interested with how they ended up sorting it out, because it definitely didn't occur to me that like that's what they would do. I mean, the show purposely kept out like a specific sort of moment between the students conversing or conversing. Either one works. That told them that, using their sort of quirks in a sort of different way, or alluding to that, and I really like the fact that they used them to just essentially create a sort of like a wonderland for kids, which is great. So yeah, but there was a lot that sort of came out of that I really enjoyed, and it actually brought up an interesting point about the sort of doomsday thing. So I guess, well, where do we really start? I guess we'll just start with that. So yeah, quirks becoming sort of too strong over time. Now, I guess that is something to sort of bring up now. Though, how long did they say quirks have been in? They've been around a decent amount of time right now, haven't they? It's been through. Oh, I can't remember if like they put out like an exact amount of years that quirks have actually been around. It's definitely been like a few generations, right? So it would probably be like sort of I don't know, like around the grandfathers of like all these kids, and like maybe the great grandfathers and grandmothers, grandparents, I should just say. I suppose it is somewhere around there. And it is interesting in a way because it does tie into the whole one for all thing. Like I mean, the whole one for all thing is sort of it's more concentrated within one person, and the idea like you're passing on quirks. It's interesting, the idea that it's especially something that I've never thought about before, is the idea that everybody that is, having children in their own way is, they have that sort of one for all sort of thing going on, like over like a longer period of time. You know what I mean? Because you'll have some parents that have a kid, and that kid could have a mixture of two quirks, one a bit more than the other. Maybe they'll not have none at all, but if they were to get that power, and then that person grows up, has a kid with somebody else who has a completely different power, and then that mixes in with those kids that have it actually makes sense. So in a way, the whole doomsday thing is actually a thing. Like, it isn't a theory. It isn't a theory. I think that is something that is like almost inevitable to happen, because unless they find some way to stop that from occurring. But the idea is that it is like one for all, just taking place over the course of a longer period of time, because it's passing on quirks and everything through generations, as opposed to passing off one for all, to a successor. And in a way it is sort of similar, but it obviously is quick. I mean, how many one for all holders has there been at this point? Is Deku the 7th or the 8th? I think he's the 8th. I think he's the 8th, right? It's 7th or 8th, I'm sure. But anyway, the yeah, I mean, it's just a definitely an interesting premise that I never even thought about before, and it completely makes sense within the logic of the show. So yeah, that's interesting. And I mean that just ties into something else that I asked during the reaction. It's probably not in the 10-minute one, but in the full length, I did talk about it. So the idea that I basically asked, are they even kids? Now, bear in mind, this was before the opening, and it was like the kids were... They had, like, great use of control with their quirk, it seemed like. And I was wondering if they were even kids, and it was just somebody actually had a quirk to make them... Like, to make people perceive that they were kids. Because they had, like, you know, it seemed like they had good control of their quirks. Not that just their quirks were powerful, but, like, control of them. Which, you know, is something that I feel like, you know, previously it's kind of been, you know, said and kind of known that kids of that age kind of struggle to, you know, either their quirk hasn't fully developed into something more, or they just don't have control over it. And that was something that actually went into the later part of the episode with Ayama. And that, you know, the control of his quirk is... you know, and it not being compatible with his body, but you know, it's that sort of idea, you know, and that it's something like his belt, like he kind of just has to wear it, otherwise it just kind of leaks out. Which, yeah, I mean, it definitely is an interesting dynamic with Ayama, but I'll get onto Ayama later on in the discussion. So yeah, I love the whole idea between the Doomsday thing about, you know, over the course of generations, like, the passing on of quirks and everything like that just merge and keep, like, sort of growing stronger to the point where kids are going to have power that they shouldn't have, you know. So yeah, I mean, theoretically, I mean, we've already seen that with Eri, like, you know, the fact that she has that quirk, like, she completely undid her father. Like, obviously it was something she didn't mean to do, but it's like that plays on the same premise. Like, you have kids that when they're able to do that, they don't know any better, and all of a sudden, you know, don't know how their quirk works. If all of a sudden it activates at age 4 and whatever, and you know, you end up killing people, like, that's a problem. That's a big problem. You know, and honestly, like, in some kind of like metropolitan sort of like or maybe like dystopian future, you could almost see this sort of idea play out in a different way. Like, you could almost see it if this was to keep going, eventually it would get to the point where kids would have to be taken away from their parents and, like, literally put in, like, you know, like a sort of, I don't really want to call it a prison system, but, like, you know, they would have to be kept away from people until their quirks developed so that they knew what they were. And, you know, it would have to be an Eri situation where they would have to be taken away from other people and out of the reach of other people so that, you know, they don't accidentally cause something bad to happen until they have control of it. And also that would always work in, like, you would have to do it, like, in a mental state. Like, you would have to bring them up right, because if any of them decided to, you know, turn evil and whatnot and become villains, then, you know, that's just another thing. So it could be like a whole thing of, like, in a dystopian future as, like, an institute for these kids that just have to be taken away from their parents because they don't know how much damage they're going to cause. And it's cool. Like, you could almost write almost like a separate alternate universe type thing where that could happen. Who knows? It could happen in this fucking universe. You never know. But it's a cool sort of, like, concept, the whole Doomsday thing, and I really like the idea of that. So yeah, that's really cool. So we got Kami's quirk, which is glamour, and it's an illusionary quirk, which is yeah, absolutely fantastic. I mean, that little girl had a fucking love quirk. We're so fucking back and go. Oh my god, I can't get over that one. I can't get over it. I never expected ever to fucking see that from back and go. Of course, it truly wasn't him, but damn. Ugh. It's just weird seeing it. Ugh. Anyway, so yeah, they all combined to make it fun. I was wondering what Batgirl was going to do, because obviously they kept it off of him for for a long time, and it makes total sense with him with the sort of leader of the kid, because it just relates entirely to like Bakugo's story when he was growing up and everything like that, and it's great character development for Bakugo. I don't need to say it any more than I already have, but he has the best development of the show. And the fact is that, you know, when he was a kid and he was praised upon, like, you know, his ability to not only, you know, be blessed with such an amazing quirk, but also, like, he was a smart kid even back then. So he was already sort of like top of the class. So I'm sure he was already getting all this praise and everything like that. And then just to top that off, like, have this, you know, amazingly powerful quirk to just, you know, basically have all of these, you know, adults and everything just praise him and basically shove a rocket up his arse and be like, right, you're all the way up there, everyone else is down here. Just giving them like a way to look at people like they're ants and they're beneath them. And all the way from that point, from that age to episode 23 of season 3, when he finally laid everything out on the table with Midoriya, and that change that Bakugo had from that point on to looking at this kid who he sees as somebody like he was when he was a kid, and basically stop that from ever happening to this kid like it happened with him. And I love the fact that, you know, he didn't, like, Bakugo for once didn't have to use his quirk. Like, he didn't have to use his quirk in this, because Bakugo beforehand would have gotten, you know, I mean, yeah, he still had that, like, sort of explosive sort of anger and rage, you know, personality, you know, come out and everything, but it's all what happens behind that screen. It's what happens, like, what is happening really. The whole thing of being like angry and everything and explosive, so to speak, is a screen. It's basically a book cover, and you open it up, and what really matters is what's going on inside, or what's going on behind the cover. And the fact that he didn't have to use his quirk, he was the one that didn't have to, like, says a lot, I think. Because with Bakugo, it has always been about sort of the mental state of Bakugo and how he thinks. So I like the fact that that's all it took. It wasn't quirks based or anything like that. He just had to acknowledge the kid and not look down upon him, you know, because that's what Bakugo hated. Whenever he thought that people were looking down on him, it just made him even more angry and everything like that. And he stopped that without using his quirk. So that was absolutely awesome to see, and I love that. I mean, anytime that's the thing, is like Bakugo doesn't have to lose that explosive sort of nature and sort of, like, you know, backfire at everybody in that sort of manner. But, you know, it's always great to see, you know, after episode 23 of season 3, like, those little moments that you get of him where he is being genuine, and things that he does say does actually come from the heart and what he actually means to say, as opposed to the front that he tends to put on. So, you know, I really love to see all of that. It's awesome every time. Love it. So yeah. He said if you keep looking down on others, you'll never see your own weaknesses. I love the lesson, man. I love it. Fucking love it. So yeah, after that we got outside with All Might and Endeavor and everything like that. So yeah, Endeavor basically changing up his sort of perspective on everything, and now it's about being a father, which is exactly what I wanted. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, like in the pre-discussion, that, you know, I want it to be a slow burn. I want it to not be just a case of Todoroki accepting that and being fine with it. Like, it's something that, because it is a sensitive situation, it always was, and it's a big thing, you know what I mean? So it can't be something that just is fixed straight away. It has to be something that is you know, dragged out to a point where they can like that Todoroki can forgive him, and they can move on from it. Like it's not something that what Endeavor did throughout that entire time is horrific. It's not nice, right? It's not nice at all. But that's not the point. Like the idea, just because somebody has done something bad, there are stuff that just can't be redeemable. But what Endeavor can do, I think, can over time be healed. So, and I think that's a sort of like another message of the show, is that kind of, because it reigns true, like, forgiveness and everything like that. In a lot of ways, like, I'll probably bring up like sort of like a Mob Psycho 100 type scenario where Mob would, the way that show goes, Mob is always, trying to find the best in people and the reasons why people go down a certain route, and he tries to change them, and everyone can be changed, and that's the whole idea. And I think that while it's not as obvious and in your face as what Mob is doing over in that in that show, in My Hero, it is something I feel like that does ring true, and I feel like it will. It's obviously going to take time. It's not going to happen in this season, I don't think. But in the next season, maybe. So we'll just have to see what happens with that. And that's the thing as well. Like I want to see. It doesn't have to be like lingered on for a long time, but I would like to see like times where Shoto is at home, and we see Endeavor being a father to his other kids as well. So that'd be interesting. And I've just come up with this now, actually. Speaking of that, because I still feel like Todoroki, not Todoroki. Fuck's sake. The fuck's his name, man? It's on the tip of my tongue. League of Villains guy, man. That I said was Todoroki's brother. Why can't I remember his name? Fuck's sake. Oh, no! I've been really terrible with names like lately. Honestly, I think my brain's just going to mush. But anyway, you know who I'm talking about, right? The guy who has Blue Flame. Now that would be an interesting thing come later down the line, like if that is ever revealed, because I truly do believe that he is. Back then it was a thing of back then it was sort of, everything was still a bit more vague, but they brought up the whole idea of quirks that sort of carried on. I don't think it was long after where they talked about quirks carrying on from like their parents and stuff like that, where they confirmed that, and then that was brought up sometime close to that, I feel like, and because of that it was just a thing of, I feel like it rings true to me, and I mean there was that one time where he took away Bakugo through the portal, right? It was like that time, and he glanced over at Shoto and he said something that was just like, well, why would he say it in that way, So that'll be an interesting thing come later, where if that is the case, Endeavor trying to be a father to, because if that was let's say that all this is true, right? So hypothetically, if he is like a son of Endeavor, it wouldn't surprise me if he left to become a villain because of that reason, like being almost shunned out by Endeavor, because obviously he wasn't the perfect weapon that he was trying to create that he managed to do with Shoto. But so instead he just went out and basically became a villain, like in the same way Shoto was, he hated his father. So did for God's sake, why can't I need to bring it up. I need to bring it up because obviously it's going to do my head in not knowing what his fucking name is. Oh man, Vanguard Action Squad, isn't it? Dabby, that's it. Fuck's sake, for God's sake. Yeah, so Dabby. So if Dabby left because of the same reason, it's interesting to see those two sides of the coin, like one that left through hatred of his father and became a villain, and one that stayed and became a hero but wanted to be a hero without using his father's quirk and everything. So they both like shunned their father, but they both went different ways. I feel like that just sets itself up perfectly for an arc, you know, and especially considering now that Endeavor is, you know, he's starting to take this path down, you know, trying to be an actual father figure, how that'll affect like that story, you know. So hypothetically, I think that story like that would make a really good arc, and you know, that's all dependent on whether or not Darby is a Todoroki, and I think he is. I just, you know, that's my theory. Until proven otherwise, I feel like he is. So, you know, there is that. And then from there we had so Night Eye had a funeral. Everyone that was a part of that whole thing with, like, in the Overhaul arc was able to, you know, go to his funeral and everything like that. And I'm quite happy we didn't have to linger on it, you know, for too long. I have so much respect for the guy, for Night Eye, but you know, like, it's, you don't want to overkill something to lose the meaning out of something. And I feel like everything that needed to be said from Night Eye or anything regarding that was said a few episodes back. You know, so yeah, but it said that Centipede took over Night Eye's agency, so that's cool. And the whole work agency like stuff is basically on hold for now, and whatnot. So yeah, Eri's quirk is tied to her horn, and that sort of grows whilst in, I guess, while she's using it. And how much power it's able to use. I was wondering when that was said if it was somewhat similar to Fat Gum's quirk, in that, like, he has to build up that power in order to release it, as like a, you know, in Fat Gum's, you know, he can release it as an attack. And I wondered if it was the same thing, if it's a case of like the horn grows. I don't know, because it seemed like the way that he was talking about it sort of decreased in size recently, like, so it wasn't, you know, after she fell unconscious immediately. It seemed like the way that he was saying it happened a bit, you know, maybe when she came out of her, like when she came back into consciousness. But I don't know, because she fell unconscious during that event, it could be a case of like her quirk was still in a state of like activation, but like, you know, I don't know. I'm sure we'll get more into that at some point, whether it grows and then she's able to release it like more powerfully, or what, or it just grows when she uses it and she activates it. It might be something that I would be able to go see in like previous episodes when she's back with Overhaul and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I'm sure we'll get into that more later. So, and then we get into the Ayama being weird. Okay, of course they would make it seem so fucking ominous, you know what I mean? Only for it to be completely a misunderstanding and everything like that. So yeah, he knows that his quirk is similar. Like, obviously, you know, they played with the whole thing of what does he know about the one for all thing and everything, but no, it's just that, you know, and I quite like that. Like, it actually, even though the show obviously made it more ominous than what it seemed, you know, they played up to that obviously, but I think it reigns true with his character. I mean, you know, when they were saying that, you know, he eats alone and everything like that, it's a bit, you know, it's sad. It's quite sad. And I remember, because he brought up the whole thing of him, it was back in the provisional license exam arc in season 3, I think, when he was talking about how, you know, he needs the belt, and also that, you know, he needs to feel like he's actually like sort of doing something. Like, it always felt like he was an outcast. You and it's like what like rather sad to hear as well. Like there's been a few times where I've actually felt sorry for him. Like very early on, he was almost like he was kind of used for comic relief in a way. You had Ashido in the sports festival, like acid his belt, and his pants fell down and everything, and like his way of using his quirk is very sort of sexualized. Like he literally thrusts when he uses his quirk, which is of course like it's very comedic effect kind of based. But I there's been a few times like in the beginning of season 3 in the camp where he is basically hiding from the villains and stuff, and he's on his own, and he's sitting there like covering his mouth, and he's it's tough. And then also when was it when was the other? Yeah, well, the other one would have been the provisional license exam arc, where he was like, I'm gonna basically sacrifice my place for the rest of the class, and basically made it so it was like a beacon, right? And I like that he gets like he had that moment, and I like the fact that he's actually, it's almost like he's becoming a bit more prominent now, because now that him and Deku are friends, it's like it's nice to see Aoyama actually find somebody that he can sort of level with, because I feel like that's something that he does actually struggle with. It may not be like at face value, and he doesn't, because like as Deku, as Deku was saying, Aoyama does say things like say what he's thinking and everything out loud, and he's very flamboyant, and it's a bit out there, and it's similar to sort of Bakugo in that way, where Bakugo's explosive and he's loud and whatever. It's not really what's going on the surface more than what's going on behind the scenes. So what he's actually thinking, I feel like it's like he seems very lonely, and I feel like he couldn't really confide in anybody, because he felt like he was a bit of a weirdo with like the idea that he had this quirk that isn't really compatible with his body. And then seeing Deku, and remember, like he said back when Deku used it at the beginning of the show, and he saw that, like, how long's that been? I think Japan, I think they start school in like the start of the year, whereas in England we start it in September. I think Japan starts at the start of the at the beginning of the year, so they've been 6-7 months now, somewhere like that. 8 months, 7 months, I think it's around 7 months, right? So for 7 months, like it's obviously taken Aoyama that long to push his way to try and talk to Deku. I feel like that it must have taken that long. If he'd noticed back then it's clearly something I feel like he's had an issue with. So it's nice to see him like actually have somebody that he can confide in, and especially with Deku, like I feel like there are obviously other candidates in Class A who would be like who would be nice to him under the circumstances, because they're all great characters in their own right that would, but having Deku there is like sort of I think it's nice that is the case. So yeah, that's cool. It's nice. What else? Yeah, we've got some information that Edgeshot, Mount Lady, and Kamui Woods teamed up, so they have like their own team going on called Team Lurkers. I don't know what that sort of refers to. I guess what they lurk around in search of crime as opposed to waiting for it to happen. They like just patrol the streets and stuff. I don't know. And what else? Oh yeah, I wrote down as well, All Might still incredibly revered, which I really like to see as well, because that was actually something I was supposed to talk about in the pre-discussion, but I forgot, and it kind of carried on in this episode at the end of, when they were outside, and they were like, "Oh, you're talking to All Might," and it's nice to see that. I mean, on one hand, it's like kind of obvious, of course, it's All Might, you know what I mean? But it's nice to see that even after he's like lost his quirk and everything like that, like people still have the same admiration and sort of that feeling of awe when they see him, which is really nice to see. Because he is sort of like the pinnacle of the show in a way, and it's like he's that pillar. So it's nice to see like everybody that's obviously not the characters that we know and love, but like characters that we don't really know and strangers and stuff that still look up to All Might in that way. It's really cool. But yeah, I mean, that's all I've got. So thank you everyone for watching. In the description below, I have links to certain things. One of them is the Discord, so you can get it over there if you wish. And I also have a Patreon page as well. So if you do want to support me on Patreon, that'd be very much appreciated. Trying to get back to doing this full time. So if you do want to support me, that will be very much appreciated. There is a bunch of different tiers and rewards there, depending on how much you want to support me with. So there's the early access tier for $5 a month. That gives you access to shows a week early. And yeah, there's also like basically from the most recent public Hunter x Hunter, like every episode now till the end of the show is pretty much up for early access, so you can get access to those now as well. There's also full length there for $10 a month. Obviously you can gain access to the full uncut reaction to all of the episodes that I react to, including this one. So go and enjoy that if you want to. And there's also other tiers where you can pay to have a show reacted to as well. So if you want me to react to a show, go have a look at those tiers and see what they offer. But that's all I've got. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.